I do want to show you a portion of Stephen Sund's interview that he just did with Tucker Carlson.
You have the United States military, Secretary of Defense or Acting Secretary of Defense Miller and General Milley had both discussed locking down the city of Washington, D.C. because they were so worried about violence at the Capitol on January 6th. On Sunday and Monday, they had been discussing locking down the city, revoking permits on Capitol Hill because of the concern for violence. You know who issues the permits on Capitol Hills for demonstrations? I do. You know who wasn't told? Me. Instead, on January 4th, what does Miller do? He puts out a memo restricting the National Guard from carrying the various weapons, any civil disobedience equipment that would be utilized for the very demonstrations or violence that he sees coming. It just doesn't make any sense.
Wait. So the military says we're so concerned about potential imminent violence that we are considering shutting down the city. But at the very same time, they decide that the National Guard can't adopt an aggressive posture to protect the city.
They're deploying because they're going to be deploying National Guard to assist Washington, D.C. with crowd control at metros and some of the traffic control areas.
Now, you'll recall Stephen Sund, of course, was the head of the Capitol Police, right? He was running the show there on that infamous day. And he's complained that he was not given the proper resources. In other words, he was really concerned. And yet, because of certain rules and regulations, he was not allowed to do what he would like to do. He tweeted out, in fact, that on January 6th, even while we were under attack, I was restricted by federal law to U.S. Code 1970 assistance by executive departments and agencies from bringing in federal assistance to include the National Guard without first obtaining approval from the House and Sergeants of Arms at Arms, Senate Sergeant at Arms. Irving was the House Senate Sergeant at Arms. Stenger was the Senate Sergeant at Arms. So, in other words, he said he could not actually legally do what he needed to do, but he wanted to. He wanted to because he made some 30 phone calls, he said, within a 2-hour span there, and yet wasn't able to bring in reinforcements. So he's asking, why the heck wasn't I able to? Why the heck wasn't I able to get the proper support? I mean, these are sort of fair questions, if you ask me. These are questions that one would have, considering everything that did go down. He did sit down with Tucker Carlson. He's got a new book out about everything that sort of went down and didn't go down on the entire thing. And he brought up his concerns and said, look, this didn't seem right. He is suggesting in that interview that there may have been more going on behind the scenes in terms of our intelligence department. He actually specifically cites even the military and says that Milley was aware of some of the bigger problems. And yet he himself, he said, was not. And he asked, why the heck was I not aware, right? Why was I not aware of these major sort of issues and potential problems? And he suspects, sort of, if you follow the thread, it's about a 50-minute interview. He suspects that they had something going on behind the scenes and he just wasn't looped in. And therefore, it was not his failure, but a failure of the intelligence arm. And some people would go so far as to say, was that even deliberate at all? Because then you could forever say, oh, we gotta get rid of the GOP because the GOP is going to take over the Capitol, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the problem that has resulted from all of this is, in fact, that can always be the narrative. It can be the narrative for an entire generation. And that narrative was caught on camera by none other than the Speaker of the House, Democrat Nancy Pelosi's daughter. And these are the pictures that were put out that were sort of, if you ask me, kind of orchestrated by, well, Nancy. I mean, it's, for goodness sakes, her daughter. It's not like they had a lot of independent news organizations following her around. Here's a clip on ABC News. At least ABC had the decency to say where the stuff came from.
Oh, he comes, I'm going to punch him out. This is my mom.
I would pay to see
I've
that.
been waiting for this, for trespassing on the Capitol grounds. I'm going to punch him out and I'm going to go to jail and I'm going to be happy.
The footage was shot by filmmaker Alexandra Pelosi, the Speaker's daughter, for an HBO documentary. She was with her mother as she fled the Capitol.
Yes, ma'am. We have got to finish the proceedings or else it would have a complete victory.
Later, she can be heard checking in with Vice President Mike.
Okay, so you heard the reporter say, It was filmed by Nancy Pelosi's daughter, Alexandra. It was for her HBO documentary that she was doing. So in other words, Nancy gets intelligence that it's going to be a big showdown that day and brings her daughter in to film and document the whole thing. Now, I get it. You know, her daughter's a filmmaker. I don't know how talented she is or what other things that she's got some background in it. It's not like the Hunter Biden thing, but still, nonetheless, I mean, you want to talk about being able to manipulate, be able to control everything. You got your own family in there videoing the entire operation. You know, CNN presented this as though it was, dare I say theirs, as though it was exclusive. They did mention Alexandra Pelosi, but take a look here.
Never before seen footage.
Right?
Yes, ma'am. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi shown fleeing the U.S. Capitol as it was under attack on January 6th. The videos captured by her daughter, Alexandra Pelosi, a documentary filmmaker.
We have got to finish the proceedings or else it will get a complete victory.
She provided some of her footage to the January 6th Select Committee, who played clips in their hearing Thursday.
So in other words, one story has been told, and that's the only story that's been allowed to be told. And so when Sund is coming out, Stephen Sund, and he's telling another story, it's just important for all of this to be heard. I'm not judging any of this one way or the other. I'm just saying that I find it troubling that somehow Alexandra Pelosi's video is what then gets used everywhere. I mean, it was used over and over and over again in the media. And that's sort of all that the average American really saw. And maybe they mentioned it first time around, hey, in this video shot by Pelosi's daughter, but then at some point it gets lost, right? And so again, in this sort of spirit of everything's sort of interconnected, literally to their kids, I'm like, guys, you know what? Like, let's keep a little distance, a little bit more church and state. Don't have your son sitting on the Burisma board for $83K a month or taking any kind of payouts while you're in charge of policy that's going down in Ukraine. By the way, then actually, you know, withholding money from Ukraine because, well, Burisma wants Viktor Shokin fired. I mean, this doesn't look good. Well, simultaneously, if you're Nancy Pelosi, I'm sorry, like get your friends in over at, you know, various news organizations. I'm sure you have a few. At least try and have some kind of pretense for independence in what you're doing. If you want to video the entire thing, I mean, you can do some on your phone, I guess. You can hand your phone to your friends, but bring your daughter in and then to have that be the video that's used. I mean, really. Hey everyone, Trish Regan here. If you enjoyed that clip, please do me the favor of subscribing to the channel. Just hit that little subscribe button right over there. Did I do that right? Not quite, but you know where it is. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so that you get the alerts, and I'll see you back on the show.